Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Big Blonde and Beautiful, the podcast. If you're new here, my name's Kara Howie, and each week I pick a piece of media that has fat representation in it, and I talk about whether or not it's positive or negative. This week is a little different because we're going to be talking about our first book, which is Things No One Will Tell Fat Girls by Jess Baker. And I also have a very special guest with me, Elizabeth Marie. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Would you mind telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Elizabeth. I am 20 something living in Los Angeles, navigating a seemingly like picturesque, you know, perfect place to live in a body that's not necessarily accepted in the industry that I've stepped into. I work in entertainment and media, and as a plus size person, that's a very daunting space. Um, but I'm taking it by storm, and I'm happy to be here today.
Yay. I also, I'm hoping to work in media. I just graduated in May with my bachelor's in media and cinema studies.
Oh,
And I've been
wonderful.
searching for a job and it has not been easy. I've yet to find one.
And just everything happening in the whole industry this year, it's like, it's a hard time to be job hunting. I feel you.
Yes, it is. So right now I'm at home, but hopefully something will happen. So I just had a couple questions just so I can get to know you and the audience can. How did you decide to become a public figure in body positive content creation?
I actually kind of fell into it. And honestly, it took me a really long time to find the body positive community and especially local here in LA, like find groups and people who thought like I did. I have lived here for 8 years, and not until like 3 years ago did I actually know that there was a local like body positive movement. And I ended up finding that during the pandemic, kind of honestly like struggling with my own mental health and wanting to connect with a community around me as well as like a larger global community. And that's when I really started to focus on seeing what other like social media content people were putting out and how other people were kind of like cultivating safe spaces in their realm of the internet. And I feel like that is ultimately what pushed me to kind of step into my own space. I grew up, making like YouTube videos and seeing other people like on YouTube posting like clothing hauls and like shopping hauls and day in my life and stuff like that. And at the time, there were very few YouTubers who were actively doing that as plus size people.
Mhm.
And I kind of like dipped my toes in it a little bit. The pandemic kind of gave me a moment to reset and recalibrate what I was seeing on social media as well as what I was putting out. And I was able to find a handful of creators who were doing exactly like what I wanted to be doing with my content creation. And then following them and getting more involved in their communities that they were building, I realized that a lot of them lived in the Los Angeles area. And then I was able to find local sources of the body positive movement. And that really kind of helped me navigate this new space. And then from there, I just focused on creating positive content and engaging positively with people and trying to not only in my social spaces but in my real life spaces be around people who were like-minded.
I just recently was in LA for the first time in early June, I believe, and I went there and they were all so nice, and I met some very lovely people there, and I'm very happy that I was able to go and be in that space because I'm from Central Illinois, and our shopping here is for plus size people non-existent. It's a torrid, in a mall
Mm.
30 minutes away from me, and that's it. So,
Yeah, I
yes, wait,
understand
listen.
that struggle. I am from a small town in Colorado. It's where I was
Mhm.
born and raised, and we had Maurice's or Walmart growing up.
Our
So
Maurices
like,
shut down a few years ago, so
yeah,
all we got is Torrid. So, like I said, we are talking about Things No One Will Tell Fat Girls by Jess Baker. So, how did you first stumble across this book?
I actually came across this book a couple years ago. I added it to my to read list, and then I bought it, and I kind of started reading it. For me, in full transparency, I'm not like a very good self-help reader.
Gotcha.
Um, and I think it's because I kind of like in advice in general, people will tell me something, and then in my head, I like fight that, like my anxiety or some voice in my head fights what I'm being told. So I ended up like I got three-fourths of the way through, and then I gave the book to one of my friends because I was like, "You'll really enjoy this." So when when you approached me about this episode, I was like, "Oh, I get to read by that book," and that's how I have it now. And I actually really enjoyed it this time. I have been working on myself and accepting like self-help books and
Mhm.
advice a lot more. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I was just every once in a while because I enjoy reading self-help books, specifically like things like this that I can very much relate to. And
Mhm.
so I will go online and be like self-help books written by fat people or whatever, things like that. And so that's how I stumbled across this, and then I listened to the audiobook on the train actually on my way home from LA. So yeah, I listened to the book and I really loved it. It inspired me because she talks about like a list that someone made of like I think it was 15 things fat people shouldn't do
Mhm.
in the book,
Mhm.
and it inspired me to kind of I've neglected it because I've been so busy, but I was doing like a TikTok video challenge where I took from that list and then I found other things, and it's about 30 things that I make videos of myself doing that they say fat people shouldn't do.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah. So,
That's
I
so
was really
cool.
happy that I stumbled across this book for sure.
Mhm.
For those who have not read the book, which I'm going to guess is a lot of listeners, I'm going to give a little summary just so you guys kind of know what we're talking about, and then we'll get more into it. So, Things No One Will Tell Fat Girls is a manifesto and a call to arms for women of all sizes and ages. With smart and spirited eloquence, veteran blogger Jess Baker calls on women to be proud of their bodies, fight against fat shaming, and embrace a body positive worldview to change public perceptions and help women maintain mental health. Jess shares personal experiences along with in depth research in a way that is approachable, digestible, and empowering. Things No One Will Tell Fat Girls is an invitation for all women to reject fat prejudice, learn to love their bodies, and join the most progressive and life changing revolution there is, the movement to change the world by loving themselves, which is very true.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard being plus size and a woman. I'm sure it's also hard being plus size man. Obviously, I don't have that experience firsthand, but for us, I feel like women's bodies are much more like consumable, is what I would
Mhm.
say.
Mhm.
And we're constantly having like things thrown at us that we should purchase, that we should look like this. And when you don't fit that mold, it can be disheartening for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
So, what are some of your favorite bits from this book?
Honestly, I have so many. My book is highlighted to heck, and I have notes all throughout the book. But um, you kind of already touched base on this, the list of 15 things that plus size women are not supposed to be doing. That really hit home with me
Hmm.
because growing up, like I said, small town Colorado. Um, I was also in the church at the time, and so
Hmm.
I went to like church sponsored etiquette classes,
Okay.
and the entire class basically was about like how to look smaller, how to apply your makeup to make your face appear smaller, how to walk so that you didn't like jut out your hips while you were walking, thus appearing smaller. Um, how to like create silhouettes with black, and how to only wear like color down the middle of you and then black on the side so that you had a little tapered waist, and all of the rules were what we were told.
Mhm.
So reading that, having it kind of solidified to me that I wasn't the only one who experienced that kind of ingraining thought process, but also the fact that other people had struggled with it just as much as I had. Because at the time I felt like when I was hearing those things, I didn't have a voice to kind of like counteract. Like, what do you mean I can't wear vertical stripes? Or
Yeah.
what do you mean, I can't wear patterns because I might end up looking like a couch? And those are still two things that I struggle with today.
Yes.
Um, but seeing that list and then seeing the counteraction that Jess put into the book, of why do we think that way? Why are
Yeah.
we telling, plus size women not to wear what they want to wear,
Hmm.
not to walk how they want to walk, or not, whatever the case may be. That really stood out to me, and it kind of healed something in me that I didn't even realize that I was still carrying, but
Hmm.
I definitely needed to hear that I wasn't alone in that struggle.
Yeah. I This book definitely did that, and that's another reason why I like to read books like this, is because I feel like people like us are making that content, but it's still kind of rare, and can sometimes be hard to find, and so it's nice to hear that. And I also grew up in the church, but I did not have those etiquette classes, thank goodness, because I have enough religious trauma, so I think that might have added a lot to that.
Yeah.
But that's also why I hate the term ladylike, because I
Mm.
always feel like um that's trying to make women in general like be smaller in
Mhm.
spaces, and I don't agree with that at all. And so despite my mother, she every once in a while she'll be like, "Kara, that's not ladylike." And I'm like, I wasn't trying to be ladylike, like I
Yeah.
don't care. So, but thanks for the info.
Yeah.
But she's just teaching me what she was taught. And so I kind of she listens to this podcast, so she's gonna be like, great, my daughter's talking about me again. But I hope that like this podcast and the content I create reaches women her age and maybe helps them kind of realize that they can unlearn some of the things that they were taught and that they're not necessarily true. So I think Jess's book also does a good job of that, like addressing what we've been told and why it is messed up and not true at all. So,
Mhm. That was another important thing about the book because thankfully I grew up, with a mom who was also plus size, and I didn't see her hate her body for it.
mhm,
And there's things that we pick up through other family members and other close friends and stuff. So I
yes,
definitely experienced that. It's just a generational thing that like gets passed down through the women in their family.
yeah,
And it's so sad to me that like we have conditioned multiple generations of women that they're bad for existing in the bodies that they're in, and that there's something wrong with them. And that was another thing in the book about um, assigning a moral value to food. That's
hmm,
something that, you know, I've definitely heard
yeah,
specifically in my family and my friend group about like, oh, I'm going to have an extra cupcake, or I'm going to have a drink with dinner tonight and it's going to pack on the pounds, and like
yeah. Well,
that
I was
negative.
sad today, like
Yeah.
that type of thing. Yes, I hear that all the
Mm.
time. I even wrote down like some quotes that I loved. Like, one of them is, "Our bodies are our physical bookmarks that hold space for us in this world."
Mm.
I feel like not just fat people, but people in general don't appreciate our bodies.
Yeah.
You know, they are the reason that we're able to do the things that we do. and we should, I guess, saying take better care of them, then some people could be like, but being fat isn't taking care of them. But like, that's not true.
Yeah.
And you just have to value your body and allow it to have a space in this world, which is very hard. Especially like, so I do like photography on the side for community theaters in my
Oh,
area.
awesome.
And sometimes it's hard for me when like they have audiences during tech week because I always feel like I'm in the way, and I don't know if that would be different if I was in a smaller body and I would feel less in the way. I've always hated I large crowds, I think because of
Mm,
those reasons. I don't know if you have felt that way.
yeah, I definitely have.
Mhm,
Very like similarly. If I'm going to a crowded place as like a paying like customer, I
mhm,
feel little, I mean, obviously the pressure is always still there in a
yeah,
larger body, but like it's more of what I'm conditioned to accept. But in
mhm,
a professional space, if I am taking up too much room as a larger person, whether that be like doing PA work
mhm,
or I do work with a few theaters here as well. If I get in the way in any shape or form, I kind of like it causes me to freeze a little bit because I'm like,
mhm,
oh no, if I was like, smaller, then I wouldn't be obstructing the audience view or like this or that or
yeah.
the other. That's a hard cycle to break out of.
Yeah, that's one that I struggle with the most is, like, feeling like I'm in the way when I'm in public spaces,
Mhm.
and, yeah, that's something I definitely have been trying to work on, but it's still a constant, like, thought right there.
Yeah. And I don't
Absolutely.
know if you've experienced this, but it's something that I don't experience often, um, because maybe I'm just like oblivious to it happening. But sometimes walking into professional spaces, especially like in the entertainment industry, automatically having other people assume that you're not a part of it or like that you're lost or
Um,
you're in the wrong space. I
mhm,
have dealt with that a few times where I'll walk in and it's like they're not expecting like a fat person to be who they're
mhm,
working with. And it's almost like, oh, wait, why are you here? And then there's a moment where it takes them, to register that, oh, okay, so you're the assistant today, or you're the wardrobe today, or whatever I
mhm,
happen to be doing. It's like they don't expect a large body to show up and do the work. And running into that is a challenge. And
mhm,
um, I picked up on what you said about, or the quote that you pulled about having space and like our body being a bookmark. And that really resonated with me because of
mhm.
like situations like that.
Yeah, I have not experienced that, but I'm sure as I am able to get a job, hopefully, in the entertainment industry, that I will unfortunately experience that. So that sucks. I also feel like the stereotype of us being lazy
Yeah.
is another thing. And I'm like, I am not lazy at all. If you knew all the stuff that I do, like,
Mm.
I don't know if it's like a Midwest mentality, but I feel like we're always just
Go, go, go,
go.
go, go. Yeah.
Yes,
Mm.
constant. And so I really hate that stereotype because I'm like, I work my butt off.
Me
And
too.
you just assume that I get comments all the time, like, get a job. I'm like, you think this is paying my bills?
Yeah.
No. And so I wish it was, but
Yeah.
it's not. And so yeah, those, but honestly, I kind of laugh at those comments more than anything. I think I would be a lot more mad if I had like that experience that you were talking about where you're walking into a job that you're going to do and they're like, "Oh, you're here for that?"
Mm.
That would be infuriating. But those comments I get, I just laugh. It pulls me out of it and it reminds me that the people who see my content only see like a little bit of who I am and what I do,
Yeah.
and that they don't really know me, and not to take their comments, to heart if they're mean. So I'm like, that couldn't be farther from the truth. I have like a million jobs. So
Yeah.
in this economy, I
Yeah,
have a
right?
lot.
I got a comment like that the other day and it was so weird because people trolls always like they say the dumbest stuff. But
Hmm.
I made a video like way back in January about like it was just funny to me at the time, whatever. I have it privated now, but I made a joke about like finally like coming into the like the fat unemployed stereotype because I got laid off.
Hmm.
And this guy was just going hard about how like, oh, well, I see you like finally met your full potential, like nothing else to do now. And I was like, bro, just laugh at the joke and move on,
Yeah.
okay? Like,
Also, the fact that they don't get that when you comment on our things, you see more of it. If you
yeah,
don't want to see us, like block me, click not interested. I had I try to refrain from responding to hate comments because I feel like that just fuels their ego. But I had one on the podcast TikTok where he was like, "This is so embarrassing," because I do a series where like I will do like that representation in media part whatever, and I'll talk just a little bit about who we're talking about for the week. And I wanted to comment back, you know, it's embarrassing not realizing that the algorithm will bring you back to this because you commented.
yeah.
Sir,
Like you're
you've
telling
done
the algorithm what you want to see,
exactly.
and if it's making you that
Mhm.
mad, just don't say anything. Don't comment.
Speaking of like archiving or privating posts, she also talks about one thing that I like in here about finding love as a fat person, which is
Yeah.
something that I have found super challenging. I think mostly because of like I'm worried about being fetishized because
Mm,
I had a post that I privated like a month ago because I literally kept getting creepy men following me and commenting on it, and I was like, I do not want this attention, like I'm here for the girls. Please go away.
yeah.
But I don't know if like what your experience is with dating, but for me, I started deciding that I want to be single right now. Like I'm not really looking for anything, but like I'd say before I turned like 2021, I was not intentionally single. I just
Mm,
no one seemed to be interested in dating me, and so I just
yeah.
was
Dating as a fat person is so challenging, and I I'm in a long-term relationship. We just got
Mhm.
engaged in August. And it's shocking to me because I when I am meeting people and they're like just first finding out that about me, and I
Yeah.
mention, oh hey, like I'm engaged or my fiance or whatever.
Mhm.
It's like people almost are caught off guard by that, first of all.
Mhm.
And I feel like that has a lot to do with the fact that in media, especially, fat people aren't the love interests.
Yeah.
And I can like name off the back of my hand like one or two books that I've read where it's like a plus size love interest, but it's still kind of like it falls into another thing that the book talks about being like the hourglass shape. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, like not all of us have that experience.
Mhm.
Um, but when I was dating and I was putting myself out there and, very much our generation being on like dating apps,
Yes. Yes.
it's a hellish nightmare that I wouldn't wish on anybody. Um, so many times, I would um interact with somebody and think like, oh, like this is, like going okay, and then they make like one comment about, you know, a fetish comment, and
Yeah.
I just it would instantly give me the ick, and I have to get out of there. Um or you get the people who obviously like weren't really like looking at your profile and
Yeah.
just swiping to swipe and then match with you and they're surprised that like they matched with a fat person.
Yeah.
Um and I was one of those people who felt inclined because I did meet my fiance on Tinder. Um so, that's
I
where we
mean, hey,
met. Yeah.
if it works, it works.
Yeah. And I feel like I became one of those people who was inclined to have a mix of full body photos and face photos because I
Hmm.
wanted to be very forward with the fact that I was fat because of experiences where like somebody would show up to meet me and then very clearly just say like, "Oh, like you're not what I'm attracted to. That's not what I thought I was getting."
Hmm.
Um and then, I had my fair share of people who would meet me and then if I felt something was off or if they felt something was off, then they would be like, I remember one person specifically, I saw him for like 3 months and I was just the entire time there was something weird there,
Hmm.
but I couldn't put my finger on it. And so I eventually was like, hey, like, like this isn't gonna work out. And like thank you for your time, best of luck. And his only response was, "Ha, as if you think I could be attracted to you." And like I still have that ingrained in my head because like again, this was after like months of dating
That's
this person.
crazy.
And then like then they decide that they can't be with a fat person.
Yeah.
It's you
That
know.
people, they hate being rejected by fat people. It
Mhm.
makes them feel so bad about themselves. Like the amount of times that I've had some friends or even myself had someone like, it's obvious that they just want to hook up and I'm like, no, I'm not really like down for that. Um like if that's what you want, that's fine. It's just not for me. And then they're like, well, you're fat and ugly anyway. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, you swiped right on me. So, and you wanted to hook up with me.
Mhm.
So thank you very much. I am fat, but I'm not ugly. And
Yeah.
yeah, I also do the mix of face and body pictures as well because I'm like, you need full body. It's obvious. Like I don't edit my pictures. Like this is what I look like. So when you meet me in person, this is what you get.
Mhm.
Get what you see because yeah, that can be very challenging. I have actually never been on a date. Like when I
Oh
say I have
wow.
like zero experience, I
Mhm.
mean zero experience. So yeah, I think it's just because I don't know. First of all, I have anxiety, so I'm like the idea of
Yeah.
going on a first date sounds horrible. My mom used to encourage me because there was this one guy in college that I kind of like, we were very similar and he was funny and we've lost touch now, but my mom was like, you should just like go on a date with him. And I was like, well, I'm not really like attracted to him in that way. And she's like, well, that's fine. Just go and have fun. And I was like, that doesn't sound like fun to me. That sounds horrible and I'm gonna be so awkward and no thanks. So I'm definitely not one to just casually like go on a date with people.
Yeah.
It's not for
I
me.
didn't start dating until college and all of my friends like back in high school, like as high schoolers are, they're just, obsessed with dating and guys and girls and this and that and the other. And it was something that terrified the living crap out of me. And I could not do it. And
Yeah.
when I moved to LA was actually when I was like, wait a minute, like let's see what this is like, which is probably awful for me because, it's dating in LA, first of all. Dating in
Hmm.
LA as a fat person. Dating in LA as a fat person in the age of Tinder. So
Yeah.
it's like I
And for
really
like
did
the first
not.
time. So yeah.
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 So I totally feel you. And there's no pressure too. Like
Yeah.
we are 100% and complete and entirely who we need to be with or without a partner. And when you're ready and you know, that's what you need to focus on is when you're
Yeah.
ready and then everything will fall into place and you can begin then. Don't let anybody pressure you into that.
Yeah. I used to feel, and sometimes I still do, feel like a little embarrassed that I haven't even like really dated. I mean, I've talked to people on dating apps, but like that's as far as it's gone because normally I get bored. And
Yeah.
and also I these past couple years though, I've been more intentional in being single just because, I just graduated from college. I'm trying to figure out my life. I'm trying to figure out my career. I'm busy doing this and work and other media things. Like I don't feel like I have the time or the energy to put work into a relationship. And that's what a
Yeah.
relationship needs to be long term is work.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I was like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But I also agree with what you said earlier with that we don't see fat love interests in the media.
Mhm.
And that is so true and probably is a big reason why we don't like I don't know, people feel like we don't have partners that love us or just are able to find someone that wants to date us or that we feel that way ourselves because we don't see it every day.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's not easy.
Mhm. I
Fortunately.
definitely agree. And that was something that, like, for a really long time, I struggled with
Mhm.
because I did not like to admit that I was like a hopeless romantic or that I liked romance books or like rom-com movies and stuff like that because I felt like those spaces weren't for me because I wasn't seeing anybody who looked like me. And if I was, it was always like the third wheeling best friend or
Yeah.
like the trope of the fat, you know, side friend.
That funny friend, yeah.
Yeah, fat funny friend. Um, and I just I didn't fit into those molds, and those weren't the stories that I wanted to see myself represented in. So then I became very much like, well, I don't like, like romance books. I don't like rom-coms. I don't like, cheesy love stories and stuff like that. Like,
Mhm.
that's just not me. And really, until like this year, which I've been with my fiance for 5 years now. So it's taken a lot of like us being in a loving relationship before I've
Mhm.
like felt like I could dip my toes into like the romance space.
Mhm.
And it's so much because fatness is underrepresented.
Yeah.
And um it's something that I've really internalized because like growing up, I wanted that love story. I, wanted the like wedding and the glitz and the glamour and I wanted to like be the one who like swoons and is swept off her feet and
Yes.
fairy tales too. I wanted to like be a princess and was just never like in that space.
Mhm.
And so I never got to identify with it. And then it made me resent it.
Yeah.
And I'm finally like coming into a mentality where I'm allowing myself to explore that like side of me. And I'm
Mhm.
healing that like part of my inner child that never really got to experience that. And
Yeah.
especially just like, I it's something that my anxiety does and something that my brain does. I know that it's a fault of mine. But I automatically assume inferiority when like meeting new people
Yeah.
and explaining myself to people.
Mhm.
So I will hold myself back with the idea that they already think I'm less than them.
Mhm.
And that is definitely like heavy internalized like fat phobia.
Yeah.
But a lot of it came from not identifying with what I wanted to see myself in, you know?
Yes, I wanna see a fat Disney princess so
Yes.
bad, and I
Mhm.
want it to have nothing to do with her weight, and I also want her to not be like an Ashley Graham, like
Yeah.
Ashley's absolutely gorgeous, but she's literally the skinny beauty standard, just like a few sizes bigger.
Yeah.
Like that, like just talks about that hourglass shape that we
Mhm.
see. And I, of course, always cheer them on because I'm sure even though to me they're like the ideal body type for a fat person, I'm sure it is still very much a struggle to be in those spaces and
Yeah.
to be successful. And so I definitely commend them for that, but I also am like, where are the girls with the big bellies? Cuz
Yeah.
cuz that's what I have and I
Mhm.
never see it. And so I definitely intentionally have been like looking on Instagram and things and following fat content creators that look more like me and less like the hourglass shape
Yeah.
because it just is nice to see yourself represented, even if you have to go searching for it, which is unfortunate. Hope that
Mhm.
there's some day sooner rather than later that we don't have to.
Mhm.
But yes, I I just want a fat princess
Yeah,
so
me
bad.
too. Definitely. And
So thank
seeing like plus size Barbie in the Barbie movie
you.
healed some part of me that I was longing for, and if we could just get the plus size princess,
Yes.
then I'll be set, you know, I'll be happy.
Yes, I also even I went and saw the movie and I guess I didn't really pay attention to who was in the cast other than like Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Um, but then I saw her and I was like, they have
Yeah.
a fat Barbie. Oh my gosh, because I wasn't expecting to see any representation of myself.
Mm,
And while I feel like when I first watched it, I didn't notice this, but it was more covered up than
mm,
her peers. Things can always be improved, but
mm.
yeah, I was very, very happy to see that. And and they didn't obviously didn't mention her weight because she's Barbie. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Mm.
So, and I think it was also cool because obviously Barbie has always been like unrealistic in terms
Mm.
of their body. And so being able to see that was just so nice. I love that movie so much.
It's so nice, and especially like going and seeing the movie, and as we were leaving, like everybody was like yelling out their car windows, like "Hi Barbie," and you know stuff like that. It was just it was wholesome, and
Yes.
we
And
were
everyone
just
dressing up in
celebrating.
pink.
Yeah,
So good.
it felt good to just like exist, and
Mhm.
you know everybody like had a place, and I feel like we need more of that.
Yes. And to also embody things that we are told as women are like bad. Like, I feel like so many women, including myself, went through a phase where we were like, I hate pink. Pink
Yeah.
is too girly. Because I
Mm,
definitely went through that and now I'm like, I love pink. Let's put more
yeah.
pink in my wardrobe. Like,
Mm,
so I just simple things like that that you don't even think about being influenced by like the patriarchy and
yeah.
internalized misogyny, and it's
Mm.
crazy. And
That's another great point that you bring up. Like, we're almost locked out of our femininity
mhm,
because, like, we don't fit the feminine body stereotype. And
yes.
I'm the type of person, like, I. I'm all over the realm of like where I want to dress. Some days I dress more androgynous, some days I dress more feminine, some days, I'm definitely a mix of the two.
Yeah.
Um, but I've always had a really hard time dressing and identifying with my feminine side
Mhm.
because I don't feel like I like fit that mold. And so
Yeah.
still sometimes like I'll put on a dress and I kind of like I feel awkward in it. And it's not that I'm judging like the way I look, which, some of it is, but
Mhm.
that's not my sole problem. My problem is, we're told not to enjoy our bodies in
Yeah.
those spaces. And that's why I started making content the way I have, because I wanted to see more bodies like mine in outfits like I liked,
Yes.
and I wasn't seeing that, so I decided to make that content. And it's been a challenge for me this year to kind of embrace what my body looks like no matter what, and not hide my belly,
Mhm.
and have my belly there. Like, if it's tucked into my jeans, so what? Like,
Yeah.
who cares if
Mhm.
it's altering the way the silhouette of this dress looks? Whatever. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter, you know?
I know I wish that all women we have shapewear and things. And I'm like, but that isn't necessary because like we all have bodies, we all have things we're insecure about. If you look like you have a stomach in this dress, it's because you have a stomach.
Yeah.
And that's just
Mm.
life. And also, I don't know if you went through this, but I was traumatized by Kohl's women's section as a child. Because,
Yeah.
like, at like 10, 12 years old, they don't have my size in juniors. And also,
Mm.
juniors are made for like teenage girls that have things that I didn't have at that age. And so, but then you have to go to the women's section and try on like my mom's clothes, which I mean are fine for her, but that was not what I wanted to wear as like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So,
Did you go through business casual era?
I did, and I look back and I'm like, "Oh, I hated it."
Me too. I have this one picture of me and it's awful, but it's like I think fifth or sixth grade. It's one of my school pictures, and I'm literally wearing one of those shirts that has like the fake white button down underneath it, and then it's the
Hmm.
black sweater. And
Yeah.
I don't know why my mom let me do this, but I cut my hair. It used to be like down like past my butt, and she let me cut it
Hmm.
right before school pictures, and I got a bob. But what happens when you have really long hair and then you go really short is it kind of like shrinks up. So I
Yeah.
look like coconut head, like just in this button down business casual shirt. And I remember being so uncomfortable on the day, and I was wearing like tapered like pinstripe pants with the shirt. I'm like, why did you let me dress like this? Like I look like I should be like morning breakfast staff at the B&B down the street. Like,
Oh my goodness. Maybe that's why I never thought of that. Maybe that's why I hate looking for like blazers and things. I'm like, I don't want
mhm.
to dress, I don't want to look like, I don't know, like business casual like I did when I was a kid. But it was either that or like, I don't even know what else was the option, to
Yeah,
be honest. It was
mhm.
that. That was it. I don't
It
know.
was that.
Kohl's, if you're listening, I don't know if you still sell this stuff, but
Get rid of it.
yeah, please. We don't want to dress business casual. I saw a TikTok that was like, it was a while ago. Like the caption was me watching a fat young girl shop in the women's section at Kohl's, but I know that I can't interrupt it because it's a
Oh, yeah,
canon
it's a
event that we
canon
all
event.
have to go through. And I was like, no, save that poor child. Do you have any final thoughts on the book or any final things that you want to say about it?
Yeah, I think two things. Um, I feel like as fat women and fat people in general, but specifically fat women, we aren't told that we can do hard things. And I feel like
Hmm.
this book proves that we can. Not
Yes.
only for the author, but for the collective people who helped with the book, with the
Hmm.
essays in here and the different stories that are just told throughout. I feel like it's proof that we can take up space and we can put our voice out there, and we deserve to speak on things that affect us, speak on things that are, unfair or need to be fixed. And I, with this book specifically, was really impressed with the amount of um, different voices that were a part of the book that maybe don't only belong to like fat spaces. There were
Hmm.
disabled voices, there were people of color collaborating in here, and I really think that um, elevated where this book is at. Um, and I would encourage everybody to read it because,
Yes.
like I said, I am not a very good self help reader. And I did read this book like two and a half times in
Hmm.
preparation for today. Um, and the first time I will say that I had, a few moments where I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to do that. And then I would sit and think with the thought, or like sit with the thought for a minute. And I was like, oh, actually, like, I get that. I understand that. So even if you're not a self help reader, I feel like this book can help multiple types of people, and it can
Yes.
help everybody. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
give it a shot because I was shocked with the amount of work that went into this, and I was very impressed. And I'm glad that we have Jess Baker putting her voice out there,
Yes.
and I'm excited to read some of her other books too.
I know. I
Um,
realized I was like, this came out how long ago? And
yeah,
she has good stuff. I'm like, I need to read her newer stuff.
yeah, right. And the fact that, like you said, like maybe your audience hasn't read the book, so many
Hmm.
people have probably missed this one.
Yeah.
Um, but it's important. And I identified with a lot in here Like I
Hmm.
said, like cover to cover, it's highlighted. There's notes, there's sticky notes, there's things that we didn't even get to talk about today
Yeah.
that I have like strong opinions on.
Hmm.
Um, so
I know we
just
could talk for forever.
we could.
But absolutely, I think that this book, obviously, it has the word fat in the title, but I don't think it's just for fat people.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's who it's mostly geared towards, but she does mention like just loving your body no matter what size you are
Mm,
multiple times in this book. And also, maybe if you have fat friends and you want to understand more about how they feel
mm,
sometimes in these types of situations and just living life in a fat body, pick this up and read it. I always love learning more about like my friends' experiences or just people in general. That's something I'm very interested in because I want to be as accommodating and helpful as I can be. And so
mm.
if you do have fat friends, I'm sure they would really appreciate you trying to understand them more
Yeah,
because yeah,
definitely.
everybody just wants to be understood and heard. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Is there any
Anytime.
you want to plug like your media or anything that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so my handles are Thick Fruit Snack on TikTok and Instagram and basically everywhere.
Hmm.
Um, right now I am working on getting my blog up and running, so that's my big thing that I'm kind of focused on. And yeah, just creating like positive content and still being a good little nice voice in my little corner of the internet.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I'm excited to just keep doing that.
Mhm. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode. As always, I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, rate us 5 stars. Leave your thoughts. If you read the book, some of what you found interesting in the book, I'd love to chat with you guys. You can follow the podcast on TikTok at bbb.thepodcast and on Instagram at bbb.podcast. And you can follow myself on all social media at Carolina Howie. And until next time, stay fat and fabulous. Bye.